Robert Duvall is one of Hollywood's most respected actors, a man known for his quiet dignity, his craft, and his no-nonsense approach to the business. He's worked with everyone from Marlon Brando to Francis Ford Coppola. But there was one actor he reportedly couldn't stand to be around. One man who, according to sources close to the set, pushed Duvall to his absolute limit. And when you hear who it was and what actually happened behind the scenes, you'll understand why this feud became one of Hollywood's most bitter and longest-lasting conflicts. The tension wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. And it all started on what should have been the greatest project of both their careers. If you love diving into the real stories behind classic Hollywood, the feuds, the friendships, and the moments that never made it to the screen, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and stick around, because what we're about to reveal will change how you see some of your favorite films forever. To understand why this feud cut so deep, you need to understand who Robert Duvall was when it all began. Born in 1931 in San Diego, California, Duvall came from a military family. His father was a Navy admiral. Discipline and respect weren't just values in the Duvall household, they were requirements. That upbringing shaped everything about how Robert approached his craft. He studied at the neighborhood playhouse in New York alongside Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman. The three of them shared an apartment in the early days, scraping by, working odd jobs, dreaming of making it. Duvall wasn't the flashy one. He wasn't trying to be a star. He was trying to be a serious actor, a craftsman. He wanted to disappear into roles, not chase fame. By the early 1970s, Duvall had earned that reputation. His performance as Tom Hagen in The Godfather in 1972 proved he could hold his own alongside Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. He was nominated for an Academy Award. Critics praised his subtlety, his restraint. He played the consigliere with a quiet power that stayed with audiences long after the credits rolled. Then came The Godfather Part 2 in 1974. Except Duvall wasn't in it. According to multiple reports, he and Paramount had a dispute over money. Duvall felt he deserved more than what they were offering, especially after the success of the first film. Paramount disagreed, so Tom Hagen was written out of most of the sequel, appearing only in a brief mention. It was a painful lesson for Duvall. Respect in Hollywood doesn't always translate to the paycheck you deserve. But that experience also hardened him. He became even more protective of his worth, his time, and his boundaries. He wasn't going to let anyone take advantage of him again. And he wasn't going to tolerate actors who didn't approach the work with the same level of seriousness he did. Which brings us to 1979, and to Apocalypse Now. Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now was supposed to be a masterpiece from day one. Instead, it became one of the most chaotic productions in film history. Shot in the Philippines over 238 days. Originally scheduled for just 6 weeks, the production was plagued by typhoons, health problems, budget overruns, and breakdowns both mechanical and mental. Robert Duvall played Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore, the helicopter assault commander who loved the smell of napalm in the morning. It's one of his most iconic roles. But according to people who were there, Duvall was one of the few actors on set who kept it together. He showed up on time. He knew his lines. He did his job. And then there was Marlon Brando. Brando arrived in the Philippines reportedly weighing nearly 300 pounds, having done zero preparation for the role of Colonel Kurtz. He allegedly hadn't read Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, the novella the film was based on. He hadn't read the script. Sources claim he showed up and expected Coppola to figure it out. Duvall had worked with Brando on The Godfather. He respected him then. But this was different. According to reports from the set, Brando was being paid $3.5 million for a few weeks of work, an astronomical sum at the time, while Duvall and other actors were making far less and working far harder. The resentment was real. Duvall allegedly felt that Brando was coasting on his legend, taking the money, and giving nothing back to the production. Meanwhile, Duvall was sweating in the jungle, doing take after take, making Coppola's chaotic vision work. In interviews years later, Duvall was careful with his words, but the disdain was clear. He reportedly said that some actors stop challenging themselves, stop growing. They rely on mystique instead of craft. He never named Brando directly in those moments, but people knew who he meant. But here's where it gets really interesting, because Brando wasn't the only person Duvall clashed with on major productions. And the next feud was even more personal. In 1989, Duvall starred in the television miniseries Lonesome Dove, based on Larry McMurtry's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. It was a sprawling Western epic, and Duvall played Augustus Gus McCrae opposite Tommy Lee Jones as Woodrow Call. The series became a massive hit, earning critical acclaim and multiple Emmy Awards. On the surface, Duvall and Jones seemed like the perfect pairing. Both were serious actors. Both were Texans at heart. Both understood Westerns. But according to sources close to the production, the two men reportedly didn't get along at all. Jones, who had roomed with Al Gore at Harvard and was known for his intensity and intelligence, allegedly had his own strong opinions about how scenes should be played. Duvall, never one to back down, had his own ideas. The result, insiders claim, was a lot of tension on set. One story that allegedly made the rounds involved a disagreement over a particular scene where McCrae and Call have a quiet moment by the campfire. According to reports, Jones wanted to play it one way, emphasizing the silence and distance between the two men. Duvall reportedly felt that approach was too cold, that it missed the underlying affection these old friends had for each other despite their differences. The scene was shot multiple times. Director Simon Windsor allegedly had to mediate. In the end, Duvall's interpretation won out, but sources say Jones wasn't happy about it. The professional respect remained, but the warmth didn't. Years later, when asked about working with Jones, Duvall's responses were always polite but distant. He praised Jones's talent, but never spoke about him with the fondness he reserved for other collaborators like James Caan or Diane Lane. The absence of warmth spoke volumes. And wait until you hear about the director who pushed Duvall so far that he almost walked off a film entirely. By the 1980s, Duvall was at the peak of his powers. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1984 for Tender Mercies, playing a down-and-out country singer trying to rebuild his life. It was a quiet, beautiful performance, the kind that reminded everyone why Duvall was considered one of the greatest actors of his generation. But success didn't make him easier to work with. If anything, it made him more demanding. He knew what good filmmaking looked like, and he had no patience for anything less. In 1990, Duvall signed on to star in Days of Thunder, the Tom Cruise racing film directed by Tony Scott. Duvall played Harry Hogg, the veteran crew chief who mentors Cruise's hotshot driver. It should have been a straightforward role for an actor of Duvall's caliber. But according to reports, Duvall and Tony Scott clashed almost immediately. Scott, known for his fast-paced, visually stylish approach, allegedly wanted to keep things moving quickly, shooting lots of coverage, keeping the energy high. Duvall, sources claim, felt like the character work was being sacrificed for spectacle. One alleged incident involved a scene where Harry gives an emotional speech to Cruise's character. Duvall reportedly wanted more takes, more time to find the right emotional tone. Scott allegedly felt they had what they needed and wanted to move on. According to people who were there, Duvall pushed back hard. The shoot paused. Tensions flared. The film got made. Duvall's performance was solid, as always, but insiders claim he later referred to the experience as one of the most frustrating of his career. He allegedly felt like the film was more interested in cars and crashes than characters and truth. What makes this story significant is that it wasn't about ego. Duvall wasn't demanding special treatment or star perks. He was fighting for the integrity of the work. And when he felt that integrity was being compromised, he didn't stay quiet. But that's not even the most shocking part of this story. So who did Robert Duvall hate more than anyone else in Hollywood? According to multiple sources and years of careful observation, the answer might surprise you. It wasn't Marlon Brando, despite the Apocalypse Now tension. It wasn't Tommy Lee Jones, despite the Lonesome Dove conflict. And it wasn't Tony Scott or any other director. It was reportedly an actor Duvall worked with much earlier in his career. An actor who represented everything Duvall despised about Hollywood. An actor who allegedly prioritized fame over craft, image over substance, shortcuts over hard work. That actor, according to sources close to Duvall over the years, was allegedly someone from his theater days in New York. Someone who came up at the same time, but took a very different path. Someone who, in Duvall's view, allegedly sold out. The exact details remain murky, and Duvall has never publicly confirmed the identity of this person. But people who've worked with him over the decades report that there's one name that, when mentioned, causes Duvall's expression to change. One name that brings a coldness to his voice. The feud allegedly dates back to the early 1960s, when both men were studying method acting and trying to break into the business. According to reports, this other actor allegedly betrayed Duvall's trust in some way, either by taking a role that had been promised to Duvall, or by spreading rumors, or by some other act that Duvall interpreted as a fundamental violation of the code he lived by. Hollywood is a small town, even when it pretends to be a big industry. Grudges last. Betrayals aren't forgotten. And for a man like Robert Duvall, who built his entire career on principles like integrity, loyalty, and respect for the craft, some wounds never heal. In interviews over the years, Duvall has occasionally alluded to this falling out. He said things like, "There are people in this business who will smile at you and stab you in the back the same day." He's talked about actors who lost their way and forgot why they started acting in the first place. But he's never named names. That silence, according to those who know him, is deliberate, because naming the person would give them attention. And attention is the last thing Duvall believes they deserve. Robert Duvall's career spans more than 6 decades. He's given us unforgettable performances in films like The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, Tender Mercies, The Apostle, and dozens of others. He's won an Oscar. He's been nominated for 7. He's earned the respect of virtually everyone in Hollywood. But respect doesn't mean he liked everyone. And some feuds, it seems, are too deep to ever truly resolve. So here's my question for you. What's your favorite Robert Duvall performance? And did any of these stories change how you see his work? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into old Hollywood drama, hit that subscribe button. There's so much more to uncover. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.